Hey everybody, it is time for a hydrangea update, and that's because our little bitty baby hydrangeas have arrived. And these are the ones that we're going to plant up, and these will be the hydrangeas that we'll be selling next season. And if we grow them properly, we can grow this into this right here. Yes, we can get it in 1 year to this size. So this is one that we planted up last year. And so it's really exciting, but you notice I mentioned that we have to be able to grow them properly. And I say that because like we get some of our hydrangeas in from other growers and most of them do a really great job, but every once in a while we'll find a grower that maybe didn't do a good job. We've kind of weeded most of those out, but the most common problem is the way that they prune them. So I think there's some of them that they must just do like a flat top hedger across them, and they just flat top every single hydrangea. And then when we get them in next season, there's the dead sticks at the end, and their shape isn't always right. They don't always catch the cross branching, so you have branches that are rubbing up against each other or just pointing in the wrong direction. So that's always a disappointment. Other thing that can happen is sometimes growers aren't real observant when they're planting, and they'll have a lot of plants that are on a really sharp angle when they're planted. Fortunately, the hydrangea can correct itself from that, so it'll still grow into its normal shape, but the bottom is always going to look good. Improper pruning, we can usually correct that the next season, so we don't worry too much. It's still a good hydrangea, but you do have to do a little bit more work with trimming it so if you want it to look right, in the future. So it's just kind of a tricky little part. The other big advantage, and this is what we really love about it, is that it gives us a chance to carry some of the new varieties and some of the harder to get varieties. And for a little place like us, it's a lot of fun to be able to say, yeah, we've got the new one. Like next year, we're gonna have the tiny quickfire, which is the smallest of the quickfire family, even smaller than the little quickfire. So looking forward to that one. We're also gonna have the Tough Stuff Top Fun, which is brand new this year. And the Tough Stuff Top Fun and the regular Tough Stuff are both Zone 4. Are they a macrophylla or a macrophylla serrata or serrata? I'm not sure. They're the pink and blue varieties. I don't remember what their genetics are, but the genetics are really strong, especially on those two. They are hardy for us, and that's really important when we're getting into those types of hydrangeas. Then, like for a Weigela, we're going to be able to carry bubbly wine next year, which, if you know wine and roses and spilled wine and that whole family, it's in that kind of variety pack, but this is a brand new one, has more of a variegated leaf, so that's going to be kind of fun to be carrying that one. Also, some of the new ones that came out this year, like Pufferfish, Sublime, and Quickfire Fab, we know that we're going to have those on hand as well, so it's kind of great. We also got in like some of the Let's Dance Can Do, which is going to be the shrub of the year next year. And that's one, oh man, I'm going to show you a couple of the hydrangeas just to give you the highlights of how they're doing, because we have a Let's Dance Can Do that I absolutely love. And we've had it for 2 years in a grow bag, and it's looking fantastic. So if it can survive in a grow bag, it can definitely do well in the ground at your house. So let me give you a little show of what we've got. So here's another look at just how much growth you can get off these hydrangeas in 1 year. I will note that in the first year, the hydrangea stems are a little thinner than what you're going to find in the second and third year. So these plants just keep getting better and better as they age. So we'll be trimming these back. We'll prune them back pretty tight this year, and we'll probably put them into a bigger pot just so that they have more room to develop roots. And then over here, these are some other plants that we had done last year. So this is a potentilla, and if we look back, this is where we trimmed them last year. So everything you see above that or outside of that is new growth this year. So this plant has rewarded us for the treatment we've given it. So we've been giving it a lot of fertilizer and water. We will trim it back again next year because we want to continue to encourage that kind of thick growth. Same thing with this Weigela here. So if we go back in where those branches kind of break apart, where there's like 3 coming off of one spot, that's where we trimmed it last year. And again, we're going to prune this back to encourage that kind of tight growth, and we're going to continue to have great plants. But again, we'll probably have to plant most of these up into bigger containers. So these are 2-gallon containers. We'll probably be moving up to the 3-gallon for these, just to make sure that they have enough room to develop and continue to look good for next season. I just had to stop at these Pinky Winkies because the size of the flowers are absolutely enormous. So this is just the start of it. You can see it's getting new growth as it goes. And the Pinky Winky is interesting because the flowers open. They even start turning pink down at the bottom before the top blooms are open. So it'll continue to keep going, and it'll have definitely like a two-tone where it'll be hot pink here and white up at the top. And these Pinky Winkies have really taken off, and gosh, the green leaves are looking fantastic. These were looking a little rough earlier in the season. We had gotten these in, and so we've been babying them a little bit, and you can see it's paid off for sure. And we tried to get some of the Pinky Winky Fab, but they're not even available until probably 2025. So I thought maybe we could get in some early bird ones, but not so lucky. Again, this is the Invincible Lace, and this is the one that the pollinators love. Has totally different flower pattern than some of the other ones. Some Incredible Blush, just looking fantastic here. Oh, there we've got some bee action going on, that lace in front, and then in the back is that Incredible. And these are, you know, nice and big flowers. They're going to be even bigger as the plant matures and when it's in your yard. Diamond Rouge always has those big flowers, big petals, everything about it just is nice and giant. I love how on the Quickfire Fab, the little center turns pink, and that's kind of the clue that the rest of the plant's going to start to blush very, very soon. So really love this one because it is like a true pink, and then it gets more hot pink as the season goes on. There's the Invincible Spirit too. I really like the pink color on this one, and the color holds up really, really quite nicely. So always fun to have that one. I'm happy to see that we're getting also a lot of new blooms off of these as well. And then some of the ones that we had trimmed back earlier in the season are starting to bloom too. So we have the ones that we didn't trim, and then these are the ones that we did. So you can see we staggered the bloom times by giving them a little bit of a hack earlier in the season. Mini Mauvettes are a little bit shorter. They get a nice color when they first open, and then they'll kind of gradually fade to more of this kind of dusty antique pink look. So it's a really pretty one, and they do hold their color better in the ground than they do in the pots. I think they get a little bit more water when you have them in the ground, whereas in the pots they're always fighting for more to drink. There's the Limetta. That one stays more of that lime color. It gets mostly white, but it always has a bit of a lime cast to it. This is the Invincible Ruby, and the color on this one's fantastic. It's always a little bit darker than some of the other varieties, so it's one of my favorites. And you can see it fades to about that color, and then eventually we'll see it turn to more of a jade color. The Early Evolution, this is the one that got hit by frost, so our flowers are more on the interior, but you can see they're starting to get their little bit of a pink color, and then all the new growth where the frost had hit is taking over. So I think under normal circumstances we'd see a lot more flowers on the outside, but right now we're seeing more kind of those ones that survived the cold weather that we had this spring. Here we have some little quickfires. This is kind of now the medium-sized quickfire, and this is the one that blooms early, gets color early, and you can see it's starting to get its blushing color. And this one's getting a really nice pink color, and I think partly is because it's in these 5-gallon pots, so it's getting a lot more water than what we usually see in our 2-gallon pots, so it usually gets a little bit more of a darker red color, but this one definitely is showing us a lot more pink. This is the new pufferfish, and the flower takes its time opening. So I think that's a good thing because it means that the flower is definitely lasting. So these blossoms are lasting forever, and this one does not blush to any kind of pink color. So it will turn more of a lime. And then also this is the one where at the very tip, once it's kind of looks like it's done blooming, it sends up one more burst of flowers. And it is a really beautiful, kind of different looking hydrangea. It's a little more of a kind of a bit of a feathery leaf, it seems, and then the flower is just kind of really a puff ball or a pufferfish full of bloom. Now here are some quickfire fab hydrangeas that were really affected by the weather this week. We had torrential downpours and it lasted a really long time, and you can see the weight of the water on these flower panicles have caused the branches to bow down. Now this hydrangea is only a year old or so, we're going to say, and you can see the branches are a little bit thin on these, and definitely not as thin as they would be on maybe a 2 or 3-year-old plant. So the stronger stems would make a big difference. Now we have two options with these. Now you could prune them back, so you could cut them, just cut off the flower panicles, and you'll see that the branches will bounce right back up. So that's an option for you. Or if you're like me and you just can't bear to see these beautiful panicles go away, you could just leave them, enjoy them kind of misshapen, but then you'll have to do some pruning in the fall or early spring, and you're going to have to prune them back pretty hard, back over to here, so that you'll encourage all the new growth on the inside. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of wonky branches that kind of go low that you're not going to necessarily want. So we're going to want to kind of encourage it to get back to its original shape, and those new branches are going to be stronger because it's going to be a more developed plant with a better root system. And we just noticed that the hydrangeas, the older they get, the stronger the stems that they produce, and they'll get stronger and stronger in your yard, even stronger than they would in a grow bag. Now let me show you a quickfire hydrangea that's 1 year older that faced the same storm. So these 3 quickfire fabs are 1 year older than the other ones, and when I look at the stems, these are significantly stronger stems than the other one, and that's just what 1 year can do. And these are also in a grow bag. Now these panicles, the flowers aren't as open as the other ones, so they probably wouldn't catch as much water, but even if they did, I'm a lot less worried about these bowing like those. If anything, heavy wind or rain or some kind of impact could snap a branch off. That might be more common with those. But even if it did snap off, it really wouldn't hurt the plant. The plant's going to recover from it and keep its shape. So just kind of a little side note. So the older and more mature your plants are, the better they're going to hold up to the conditions, the weather that we have. One last tidbit, there is still time for you to give one more dose of fertilizer to your hydrangeas. We use a time release fertilizer for flowering shrubs or like a rose fertilizer. You can use that now. After this point, we don't recommend giving them any more fertilizer. We don't want to encourage any new growth at this point. We want them to kind of start blushing and then get ready for winter and for their winter dormancy. So giving them more fertilizer now, not the best idea. You'd just be wasting it. So hey, give it that one more dose now, you're done for the season.